It's really fast.
We're live. Happy Friday, everybody. I know we were off last week, but we are back this week with an amazing guest. Rachel Abramowitz is here, and she is the founder and CEO of Keepler, a new community content platform and marketplace for all things dating. She's also a dating app survivor, which maybe we'll get to, and lives in Brooklyn with her husband, baby, and two cats. Rachel, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful to talk to you guys.
And you kind of can't get enough of us. I got to admit, you came on my podcast, Ghosted. You've met with Andy and I a couple times. We love what you're up to. So, for starters, tell us a little bit about Keepler. And for people who haven't heard of it yet, what are you guys up to?
Sure. So we are building a new community for all things relationships, and dating falls under that umbrella. So where, if you have been on dating apps for 15 years and you're coming up on maybe a certain age and you're a little tired of, the swipe culture, this is a place you can come to have your questions answered, to give advice and to get advice from your peers and from experts. We'll have content from dating coaches, relationship coaches, matchmakers, anybody who has expertise around dating and relationships. And you can actually book these people to help you on your dating and relationship journey. So, you can have one-on-one support, peer support, and consume the content that we have curated for you.
And I feel like this also kind of hits on a theme that I am noticing, that people are more focused on community-based things that are a bit more intentional. Of course, dating apps, I'm sure, will never go away. But do you feel like in other industries outside of dating, have you noticed that as a theme too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of our comps actually is All Trails, right? Which is a hiking, you look for trails to go hiking on. And they have pivoted wonderfully to community, which seems now obvious, but a little while ago, that may not have been the thing that people would go directly to. So there's they were saying, oh, well, you're just an individual hiker going on a hike, but people actually really want to share their experiences and be like, this hike was amazing. And they had reviews, but no way to really connect people. And now they're moving in that direction. There are other communities for shopping, for pregnancy and fertility, it really is proliferating. And yet there's no community really for dating and relationships. So, and which seems like an obvious thing that you should have, that traditionally you were in a community, right? In your village, or I'm thinking about my ancestors in the shtetl somewhere, right? You had your yenta, and they would, connect you, and you had people who knew you and who, provided those checks and balances for certain kinds of behavior, right? So dating, it seems like a pretty straightforward connecting of the dots. And so we want to make sure that this is a safe place for people, that they're going to learn something about themselves and each other, and how to connect in a different way, reframe their understanding of dating and relationships. And I hope, you say like dating apps will be around forever. I hope we make them, no longer acceptable. So this will be the way to go.
Honestly, I would love it. If people don't know, besides doing this live stream, I also have a matchmaking company. So obviously I have a little bit of knowledge in this area, but I would love if dating apps didn't exist, but I feel like because it's kind of become part of how just it's normal, that's how you meet people when you're single. But I don't know, we're always here saying, oh, there'll never be anything different. And then something comes around and blows our minds.
Right. Exactly. But it's become strange to actually go up to someone in a bar, or in wherever, and start talking to people like, why are you talking to me? It's like, no, this is how it used to be. Right now it's like, oh, you're not on a dating app. That's weird. Right. But there's always, things shift. The pendulum keeps swinging.
It's even interesting to think about too, like you were saying back in the olden days with the yentas, and you had your community, and you wouldn't really meet people outside of your, pretty immediate circle, because someone would just say, oh, I have a friend or a family member, and introduce you. So now obviously all this still goes online, but in my mind, that seems a little bit better, because at least these people have the same intentions of wanting to be a part of a community too.
Yes. And the people who will come onto this community, I think, are ready to do that kind of work. I mean, I wish there were a better word than work. It's sort of a has some negative connotations, but it really is something that people require of themselves, and they're starting to require of their partners, right? To say, like, listen, I've been in therapy for 10, 15, 20 years. We're going for a slightly older group, 30s to mid 40s, and they say, I've done this, I'm working on myself. This is a priority for me, and I simply won't accept someone for whom that isn't important, right? For whom that isn't a value. So, people for whom that is not something important to them, there's a place for them, and that's wonderful, and that's great. You find your people. This is a new place to find, people who are also doing the things that you are doing, and the things that you care about.
Such a good point. Sorry, Andy. I've been monopolizing the questions here. I just get
No,
excited.
I have a lot of questions. I've been thinking about several things. So,
Sure.
Rachel, now that you've decided to create this, it's a very ambitious thing to launch a national product and in something in a competitive space like relationships. What has the experience been like from when you decided to create this to enlisting the technical help to build an app, and the kind of what has it been like to recruit the team that you have, and how long has it taken to physically build this?
Excellent question, and I sort of, it flashes before my eyes every time we pivot. So this actually started. So I'll give a little bit of background. I used to be an academic. I did an MFA in poetry, PhD in English. I was teaching for a long time at Barnard College, my alma mater, and I absolutely loved it. But academia was sort of there was it was I was a little stuck in it, and so I decided to go to business school. And in business school, I started to explore this machine, sort of the machine of the dating app. Like, what parts comprise it? How can we take it apart? How can we start to look at each aspect of it, and is there another way to do what they're trying to do? And I had a wonderful team of undergrads at Dartmouth. So I was at Tuck, and the Dartmouth undergrads are brilliant. I mean, these 19-year-olds who are more professional and sort of more I don't know, organized than a lot of like 50, 60-year-olds I know. So this was brilliant. So we had a no risk way to start to explore this and start to build and start to do experiments, right? So start to talk to customers, understand what the problem was. I mean, you always, of course, everybody, start with the problem. I think a lot of people try to go for the solution, and it's so tempting. You're like, oh, here's this thing that I built. And it's like, well, is there a problem that corresponds to it? Maybe not, so really trying to nail down the problem. And after that, taking Keepler out of Tuck during pandemic, this was hilarious. So I was basically living with my parents for 3 months. I went home for spring break and was stuck there over pandemic for 3 months. So then was there for a little while, moved to LA, still working on Keepler remotely, had a remote team of these undergrads, and then finding contractors. So, somebody to help with, project management, and help us find a development team. And eventually we found a marvelous development team called Freeport Metrics, who have their offices in Portland, Maine, but the office we're working with is actually in Poland, in Warsaw. And it's actually a group of young women who are working on the design and the project management and doing the testing and QA. And then there are developers who are coding. So, and they've been collaborative, they've been creative. I mean, I want to steal them all, but I don't think Freeport would let me do that. But I think they're just the absolutely top notch. So it has been a long road of testing, iterating, seeing, asking people, would you use this? What kinds of problems is this solution solving for you? Is this your main problem? Digging down into okay, you say you want this. What's the need beneath the feature you're asking for? And is that really the feature that will solve that problem? So go digging deeper and deeper and deeper. So it has been a remote, contractor-driven journey. But now that we are going out with our soft launch in just a few weeks, we hope to bring people more in-house, and we're fundraising right now. So, I want to scoop up all the people we've been working with and bring them into the Keepler universe, and, give them lots of money and equity, make them happy.
So people always joke about how there's so many dating apps that come out that they have to be specialized to like christianfarmers.com or whatever, and it has to be multiple niches deep, and they're based on geography, they're based on are you a single parent? Are you into a holistic lifestyle, whatever? What percentage of your platform is meeting people versus education? And
Mhm.
what made you want to have these kind of multi layers of education resources, community connection, and the one-on-one meeting of people who you might, potentially hit it off with?
Excellent. Yes. So because that regionality is so hard to nail, and you have to be super careful about how you're going out with the product, right? You're saying, okay, well, yes, we're Christian farmers in the Midwest or whatever, right? So you create a go-to-market strategy that targets those people. We are actually not opening dating, like matching, until a little bit later. So we can actually go out broadly, so across the nation, to say, oh, you are a single mom who wants to date again, but you live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You can connect platonically with a peer, a single mom on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, right? And you will have something in common, right? This is something that it's more of a lifestyle or a life stage commonality, something that you can talk about. Or maybe you're coming up on 30 and you're like, I better get my act together, right? You can be in Seattle and talk to someone in Texas. So it's not so dependent upon that regionality. When we do go out with dating, that is something that is important to people. You want to be able to meet people in person. But by that point, I think that this community will be so strong that people can start to recommend their friends and family members to be like, oh, my cousin in Tulsa is single, right? And this person, there's already a vetted foundation, right, that you've created over the last 4 months or something like that. So there's a little bit more of that built in, that community aspect and that vetting aspect built in. So it's not just totally random. There will be some sort of serendipity that goes on, but if they're in this community, you will see how they have behaved, right? What they've posted, how they've spoken to others, how they've reacted, and get a better sense of who they are, rather than just a two-dimensional swipe, picture, which, a physical attraction is always very important. We're not getting rid of that at all, but you can see a more three-dimensional, get a three-dimensional understanding of someone throughout time. So that's really what we're going for there. I'm trying to remember other parts of your question. I think you asked wonderful, like 3 and 4 part questions that I want to get to all the parts.
Oh, that covered it really.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. And I was going to ask too, what can people expect if they want to try out the beta? Who is that open to? Tell us about that.
Yes. It's open to people who, well, first of all, everyone, but people who understand that this is a work in progress. So I think that life is about setting expectations, right? That is it. So I want to set the expectation that this is the first time we are going out with a public product, right? There will still be issues. You might find a bug or two, right? We're always working on improving it and adding more features over time. So this initial soft launch is going to be the community layer. You'll be able to indicate what skills you have that you want to share with other people. So you could say, I'm amazing at putting together great first date outfits and, icebreakers or something like that. And then someone else will say, that's amazing. I'm not good at those. I'd love to talk to you, but I'm really great at, having the breakup conversation and navigating political differences or something like that. And so you can actually start to exchange, I would call it expertise, but sort of, it could be, certainly could be, absolutely could be expertise, but experience in these areas. So you'll be able to do that and start to connect with people, join groups. There's a feed, sort of a curated feed for dating and relationship news. So do you remember there was an article in Psychology Today, a month or so ago about the new trend of men who are finding that they're not as successful on dating apps because they aren't doing the work, right? There was that great article. And so you would see something like that, right? That you can engage with, start to talk about with other people. And we're just going to start to test out the other features. So are people excited about talking to dating coaches or a matchmaker? Abby, I very much hope that Abby will be on the platform and available for consultations and work. I think so.
I don't see why not.
Excellent. So then, how willing are people to do this? And so it's a test environment, but it's a really exciting one because I am open to being emailed about features that people want to see. I want to make myself very available to people to say, I love this, I hate this, this didn't work, I don't know how this is going, I love this feature, and this is going to make me, be on this forever. So setting those expectations is key.
Right. And I know you mentioned earlier on, oh my God, what if someone's been on a dating app for 15 years? If you have, please reach out to any of us. We are here for you. But with Keepler, it's almost like you want to have people stay on there. So I'm assuming, will you have things where it'll evolve into helping with relationships, beyond people just being single too?
Absolutely. So Keepler really follows, guides you throughout your entire dating and relationship journey. So if you are just starting to date, maybe after a while, maybe, COVID, you were like, I'm not doing this right now, and you're just getting back into the game, Keepler is here for you to understand how to get back in there and start to build up those interpersonal skills again. Realize that you're not alone, because lots of people are feeling that way. So pre-dating, and then dating as you go through it, getting into a relationship if that's one of your goals, and then maintaining a relationship. Even if you are currently in a relationship, you can join Keepler, because there will be resources for you to know more about yourself, strengthen that relationship, right? Dating it's really hard, but relationships is like when all your stuff comes up, right? You're just like, oh boy, here, I'm really being challenged. So this is a time when you as an individual in that relationship can build up your skills and your communication, your realizing, is this the person for you? Maybe yes, maybe no, right? I mean, sometimes that does happen, and those revelations occur. So really at any stage in this journey, you can join Keepler.
That's awesome, because I feel like there also aren't as many resources. There's a lot for single people, like, okay, go on a dating app, go meet someone. But then once you get into a relationship, it's like, well, what do I do now?
Right. And there are relationship apps out there.
Yeah.
They do require both parties to be on them, which is ideal, right? You hope that your partner is just as ready for that level of interaction and skill building as you are, or that you want to be on that same level. You don't need to be that way on Keepler. You as an individual can go on and learn as much as you need to. You don't necessarily need your partner. I mean, it'd be wonderful if both of you were on there, but the value proposition of the app does not go away if both of you are not on it.
That totally makes sense. Andy, you got any more insightful questions over there? I feel like you always got something brewing.
What do you think is the scale up for when you want to be that fully commercial, ready to go product? Is it next spring? Is it going to be a while in beta?
It's going to be a couple of quarters. So yes, probably next spring. We'd really like to go out with that. Spring has sprung, right? Like new renewal. And you can always time these things to seasonality or to holidays or something like that. I always found it, people do Valentine's Day things, but it's still so cold and nobody wants to go out. And, so maybe, it probably will be around spring when these first experts are on the platform and they've onboarded, they know how to use all the infrastructure that we're building, and to make it just very seamless for people to find each other and then to set up that appointment. And if you like the person, wonderful, keep going. If you want to find someone else, wonderful. There are more people for you to connect with.
And Keepler is a pretty catchy name. Is there any story behind the name and your branding?
Yes. Okay, here we go. So the very beginning of this, I came across something called the secretary problem, which is a mathematical theory that says that if you are hiring for a job and you have a discrete pool of candidates, you should not hire until you've gone through 37% of them. And then you should choose the next best person. So it may not be, so if you have 100 people, go through 37, it may not be the 38th, but it may be the 39th, 40th, whatever, the next best, because after that, it's just diminishing returns, right? You've gotten enough of a baseline to understand what you're looking for. And as I was researching this, I found that one of the people who had used a version of this that would later become the secretary problem was Johannes Kepler, who was the astronomer, right, in the 17th century. And he found his second wife by doing a little bit of this procedure. And it turned out that the second wife whom he married saved his mother from being burned at the stake as a witch. So I thought,
whoa,
success, like, well chosen, right? I mean, I don't think he was a particularly happy man. I mean, I've done a lot of research on him. I was going to write a novel about him at one point. So I've done a lot of research on this, but I was like, okay, Kepler used this to find his partner. So like, we want to have somebody, you want to find someone to keep, and like, these are for keeps. So there was like a Keepler-Kepler kind of connection in there. And maybe someday we'll use some version of the secretary problem, because I thought we could use it to help people make decisions, right? The math gets really complicated when you've got a two-sided secretary problem, when this pool is not just static, right? This pool keeps changing. And then how do you determine the 37%? Is it over a week, a month, a year? How do you determine the pool size? So it got way above my pay grade very, very quickly in terms of, math. I'm not amazing at it. So we decided to go a little more toward the psychology route, but who knows, that may come in later, but that is the weirdly nerdy origin of Keepler.
That's so clever. I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of timely because Andy and I are kind of working on coming up with a new name for something we're working on, which stay tuned, everybody. But it's kind of is like, it's like, we're like, okay, what do we combine words? Do we think of something brand new? Do we have a random word? I mean, there's so much thought that goes into coming up with a name for your business, your app, whatever it is.
Absolutely. It's so difficult. It's like poetry. You have to put so much meaning into so few characters, right? That's really hard. Yep.
And then you got to make sure people understand it, and then you don't have to explain it to people. But Keepler is short and sweet. We're big fans of it.
Thank you.
Well, and apps typically get like kind of condensed to a single word, or something that has to be really short and have a lot of vowels and be very springy. Uh-huh. So Keepler is something that you don't forget, and it's very easy to say.
Thank you. Well, from your mouth to our users' ears, let us hope. Thank you.
Right? Yeah. If you're watching this, remember Keepler. And we'll get to the end at that time. You'll have time, Rachel, to tell us where people can find you, where they can sign up for the beta, all of that. It is in the links below as well, if you're watching the live stream right now. Rachel, I would like to ask you too, just running this business, what has been something that has surprised you the most that you didn't really expect?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. I think over time, how my capacity for smart work has outpaced my capacity for just hard slog work, right? That I've gotten better at managing, well, I mean, it's like managing my time, but really, I mean, I have a 3-month-old and she takes up a lot of energy, and I have a wonderful husband who, is absolutely an equal partner, and I have help, and it's marvelous. But it definitely forces one to prioritize and to say, this time I can definitely take, this meeting is really, really important. This one I might need to push a little bit further down the road. So I think prioritizing, making those decisions, I'm usually someone who's like, yes, let's do everything. And I'm happy to accommodate you. And so it's been uncomfortable to say, I can't actually do that. Can I do this later or in a different way? And I've been proud of myself noticing how I'm getting better and better at that. So, because I want to spend time with my family and I want to build, this Keepler is also my baby, right? It's like, it's a toddler right now. You can't just say like, okay, well, bye. This is something that really I want to have in the world. So I think that has been really surprising, and the quality of people with whom I've worked has just absolutely been marvelous. The people I've come across, I absolutely love, and even people who maybe have moved on. I think a lot of the undergrads, of course, they want to get real jobs and go make a ton of money. But we're all still in touch, and I think that they are phenomenal. And just I've been so lucky to have people come into my orbit who are who adds so much value both to the business and to my life. I mean, I love going to meetings because I'm like, I get to see these people. It's really fun. That's been surprising.
Right. And you honestly, you are lucky for having that, because I know from my experience, I've hired people that have been really great, also not been really great. Do you feel like, do you have a secret sauce of, making sure you surround yourself with the right people, or, certain things that you make sure of before you bring them onto your team?
You know what? It's a lot like what we hope to teach in dating, right? Because you are dating these people, right? Like those first
Yeah.
interviews, those are dates, right?
Right.
How does this person, they have their qualifications, they can look amazing on paper, and that's incredibly valuable. They need to have the qualifications, right? But also, how do you feel in your body about, when you speak to this person, what sort of tuning forks are being, set off, right, in your body? Is it something that feels really discordant, and you're like, maybe I could try to make this work? And I've done this. I've actually made that mistake. Like, I'm like, this doesn't feel right, but look at their resume, and they, seem great. I'm sure it's just me, right? I mean, we always say, like, I'm sure it's just me. And then that turned out to be not amazing. So there have been some instances in which I over sort of over indexed maybe on the paper, and under indexed on my intuition about that. And intuition is simply experience building over time, right? So the more you do this, the better you get at it. And then you can say, oh, wow, this person, I know this feeling, right? Either in a negative way or in a positive way. You're like, this, I know, this type of energy. I mean, sounds very woo-woo, but like this type of energy is going to enhance the team and really push us forward. That doesn't mean that they have to be outgoing and bubbly. I mean, you can be very quiet and introverted. You can have a different style, but the style almost doesn't matter. It's really that underlying, passion for one's own present and future, right? They want to make their lives more interesting, and you think you can make that together. So which now I'm saying it all applies to dating also. So like, you're making a partnership.
It's so true.
That should be there. Yeah.
If you're a recruiter or like a hiring manager, just take some of those practices, bring them into dating. Obviously maybe different mindset, not so businessy, but
although I will say my entire dating like landscape shifted when I started to just think, all right, this other person is on a job interview to be my boyfriend. Like, so it really lowered the stakes for me to be like, oh, I don't have to say, I mean, I can be myself, and I can be I don't have to be anything else other than myself, because, this is, I also have to like you. I don't just have to make you like me. So there is some crossover.
Oh,
Right.
totally. Yeah, I was laughing too when you said woo woo, because I have used astrology with people I've hired before. So
Listen, honestly, whatever works, whatever resonates with you, I say go for it.
right.
Yeah.
You might as well. And we're getting to that time. Andy usually has a really good question right at the end.
How do you hope to maintain your culture when this grows and your staff are all virtual on the computer? I don't gather you're probably going to want to get a brick and mortar office in New York City.
No.
So you mentioned having the same type of relationships and matching with all of your employees, but are you feeling confidence in managing online? And what kind of tips would you give for people who have remote employees?
Ooh, great question. Well, hire the right people in the first place. That certainly helps. And we all now have had several years of practice online, right? Of scheduling, like which meetings need to be on Zoom in person. When do you need to be on camera as much as you can? When can you really be off? So adjusting to someone else's schedule and their comfort level with being on camera. Not everyone is comfortable with that. Accommodating people's, needs. Like if somebody's kid is sick, like, of course, go take care of your kid, so being very flexible in that way is always key. And I think that the fear is that if you are flexible and accommodating, that people will take advantage, and some people might, but the right people will just come back and do even better work, right? Because they know that they're safe and they know that they are seen as human, right? Even if you are over a computer. I think that again, like over indexing on the humanity part of it is rarely going to steer you wrong. So that would be my biggest tip, is these are not just two-dimensional people. They have lives that you don't see, and as accommodating as you can be, I say go for it.
Love that.
Great advice. And now is the time where you can give us all the shameless plugs. I know I put a couple links below too, but where can people follow you, follow Keepler, know when the beta is launching?
Sure. So to join our email list and get updates on product, and even become, a Keepler ambassador, if this is something that interests you, go to keepler.com, keepler.com, and sign up for the mailing list. You'll be on the wait list. You'll get a notice about when the beta goes out. You can follow us on Instagram. We're at Keepler app, and also on Twitter, we're at Keepler app. And we have a TikTok, also Keepler app. One of our marvelous Dartmouth undergrads was at the helm of the TikTok for a while, and he was just a genius at it. So it's really fun. And, follow us. We want to make something that makes you happy. So tell us what makes you happy.
Awesome. And I know I will be checking out the beta. Maybe people can even find me on there. So you better go look, because you never know.
Yes.
And Rachel, anything else that you are celebrating right now besides getting close to the launch of the beta? It could be personal, professional, or otherwise.
Well, let's see. Celebrating. I'm quite proud. My husband is here. We're in New Mexico right now. He's working on a TV show, and I just moved, but the baby and my laptop, like that's all we need. So we're setting up shop, and I'm very sort of celebrating a week of being here. And I know where the grocery store is. I know where things are. That it's a big win with a little teeny tiny little nugget.
I can only imagine. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. This was really fun to have you on. And for everyone watching, we hope you have an amazing Friday.
Terrific. Thank you so much, both of you. Excellent questions.
Have a great day.
You too.